The great chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room Park Do-yun had ever seen. 12 species sat in their designated sections, their representatives arranged in circles that rose up toward a ceiling lost in darkness. Lights floated everywhere, casting strange shadows on faces that were not human. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no faces at all, just smooth surfaces that somehow conveyed emotion. Do-yun stood at the center platform, his hands clasped behind his back. He was not a tall man, but he stood straight. His black hair was streaked with gray at the temples, and his eyes were calm. He had served as humanity's ambassador for 15 years. He had seen many votes. He had never seen one like this. "The motion before the council," announced Speaker Vorithax, a creature of flowing robes and too many eyes, "is to remove humanity from membership. All species will now cast their vote." Do-yun did not move. Behind him, in the small human section, Delegate Coordinator Yoon Mi-rae sat with her tablet, recording everything. She was younger than Do-yun, with sharp features and sharper instincts. She had warned him this might happen. He had not believed her. The Velith voted first. Their representative was tall and thin, with blue skin that shifted colors with his mood. Right now, it was dark purple. The Velith vote to remove. Humans are too aggressive. They solve every problem with force. Do-yun wanted to remind him of the 3 wars humans had fought to protect Velith colonies. He said nothing. The Moran voted next. They were shorter, covered in brown fur, with wide eyes that made them look innocent. They were not. The Moran vote to remove. Humans expand too quickly. They take too much space, too many resources. Do-yun thought of the Moran ships that used human fuel technology, human navigation systems, human weapons. He said nothing. One by one, the species voted. The Palaxians, who ate food grown by human farmers. The Drenics, who lived in stations built by human engineers. The Vosk, whose plagues had been cured by human doctors. All of them voted to remove. Only the Qurayshi voted to keep humanity. They were small creatures, barely reaching human waist height, with large ears and nervous movements. Nobody respected the Qurayshi. Their vote did not matter. "The vote is 11-1, Speaker Vorithax announced. "Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. You have 1 galactic cycle to remove all human presence from council space." The chamber filled with noise. Some species cheered. Others simply talked among themselves, already moving on to other business. 300 years of human membership ended in an afternoon. Mi-rae stood up, her face tight with anger. "Ambassador, we should do nothing," Do-yun said quietly. He looked around the chamber one final time. He had given speeches here. He had negotiated treaties. He had begged for help during the Outer Rim crisis, and he had offered help during the Palaxian famine. None of it mattered now. He walked to his platform's microphone. The chamber slowly quieted. "You have made your choice," Do-yun said. His voice was steady. "We will honor it. Within 1 galactic cycle, every human will be gone from council space. We wish you well." He turned and walked out. Mi-rae followed. The chamber erupted in noise again, but Do-yun did not look back. On the human flagship Eternal Dawn, Admiral Choi Sun-hee received the news in her command center. She was a small woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Around her, officers monitored screens showing human positions across the galaxy. There were thousands of them. Ships, stations, colonies, outposts. 3 centuries of expansion, cooperation, and service. "All of it," Sun-hee said. "We pull back all of it." Her first officer, Commander Han Jisu, looked uncertain. "Admiral, some of these positions are critical. The Velith atmospheric systems, the Moran border patrols, the communication relays, they voted us out." Sun-hee's voice was flat. "We take everything we brought. Everything we built. Everything we maintained. They wanted us gone, so we'll be gone. Their council will collapse without. They should have thought about that." Sun-hee turned to her communications officer. "Send the order. Operation Homecoming. Every ship, every station, every human. We go home." The orders went out across the galaxy. Dr. Beek Jiwoo received hers on the medical station orbiting the Drennick's homeworld. She was in the middle of surgery, her hands inside a Drennick's patient, repairing damage from a construction accident. She finished the surgery, closed the patient, and then read the message. She had spent 20 years building this medical network. 40 worlds, hundreds of hospitals, thousands of staff. All of it had to be shut down in one galactic cycle. Start packing, she told her head nurse. We're leaving, but the patients will be cared for by their own people. Kiwoo's voice was tired. That's what they wanted. Engineer Kong Taiwan received his orders on the communication relay station in the Corvan sector. The relay was one of 50 that humans maintained, keeping the council species connected across vast distances. Without them, communication would slow to a crawl. Taiwan looked at the relay systems he had spent 10 years perfecting. Begin shutdown procedures, he told his team. Full removal. We don't leave anything behind. Sir, they won't be able to maintain these without us. They never learned how, then they'll learn now. Taiwan started disconnecting panels. Or they won't. Either way, it's not our problem anymore. Agricultural specialist Oyuna received her orders on the farming colony that fed half the Palaxian population. The fields stretched to the horizon, filled with crops that human scientists had engineered to grow in Palaxian soil. Before humans came, the Palaxians could barely feed themselves. Now they exported food to 3 other species. Yuna looked at the fields she had built. Harvest everything we can carry, she told her team. Then shut it down? Shut it down? The Palaxians will starve. The Palaxians said we were a threat to the natural order. Yuna's voice was bitter. Let's see how natural their order is without us. Across the galaxy, humans began to leave. They did not leave in anger, with shouting and destruction. They left quietly, efficiently, packing their belongings and dismantling their systems and saying polite goodbyes to colleagues who suddenly realized what was happening. Some aliens tried to stop them. A Velith official demanded that human engineers stay to maintain the atmospheric processors. The engineers showed him the council vote and kept packing. A Moron captain ordered a human patrol ship to remain on station. The ship jumped to hyperspace without responding. The Karashi ambassador Tellan came to see Doyun before he left. Tellan was small even for a Karashi, with ears that drooped sadly. I voted to keep you, Tellan said. I want you to know that. I know. Doyun shook the small creature's hand. Thank you. They'll regret this. They don't see it now, but they will. Doyun looked out the window at the council station, growing smaller as his ship pulled away. Yes, he said. They will? The last human transport jumped to hyperspace 30 days later. The council held a celebration. They were finally free of human aggression, human ambition, human interference. Speaker Verithax gave a speech about new beginnings and natural balance. Everyone cheered. And in the maintenance tunnels beneath the council station, a Velith technician stared at a broken water pump and realized he had no idea how to fix it. He had never needed to learn. The humans always fixed everything. He called for help. No one answered. The first warning came 3 months after the humans left. It came from the Velith homeworld, and it was not a warning anyone expected. The atmospheric processors were failing. The Velith lived on a world with air that was slowly turning toxic. 200 years ago, human engineers had built massive machines to clean the atmosphere, to filter out the poisons and pump in breathable gases. The machines worked perfectly. The Velith never thought about them. Now the machines were breaking down, and no one knew how to fix them. Chief Engineer Voreth stood in the main processing facility, surrounded by blinking lights and warning sounds. His blue skin had turned pale gray with stress. Around him, Velith technicians argued and pointed at screens and accomplished nothing. The filtration system is failing, one technician reported. Toxin levels are rising. Then fix it, Voreth shouted. We don't know how. The humans built this system. The humans maintained it. We never. The technician stopped. He did not need to finish. Voreth looked at the schematics on his screen. They were written in human technical language, filled with terms he did not understand. He had never bothered to learn. Why would he? Whenever something broke, he simply called the human engineers. They came quickly, fixed the problem, and left. It was easy. It was convenient. It was over now. Contact the council, Vorith said. Tell them we need help. The message went out. The council received it and held an emergency meeting. Speaker Vorifax looked at the report and felt something cold in his stomach. This is a simple mechanical issue, he told the assembly. Surely our own engineers can solve it. The system is human-designed, the Velith representative said. His skin was shifting colors rapidly, a sign of fear. Our engineers do not understand it. We need... He stopped, unable to say the words. You need humans, said Ambassador Talon from the Qurayshi section. His voice was quiet but clear. You need the people you expelled. The chamber went silent. No one wanted to admit it. No one wanted to say that they had made a mistake. We will find another solution, Vorithax declared. The Drenics are excellent engineers. They will help. But the Drenics had their own problems. Their space stations, designed and built by human construction crews, were developing structural failures. Walls cracked. Seals broke. Air leaked into space. The Drenics engineers looked at the damage and did not know where to begin. Human engineering is different from ours, the Drenics chief builder admitted to the council. They use techniques we never studied. We cannot repair what we do not understand. Meanwhile, on the Moran border, chaos was spreading for decades. Human patrol ships had guarded the border against pirates and raiders. The humans were aggressive. Yes, that was what the Moran had complained about. But they were also effective. Pirates feared human ships. Raiders avoided human sectors. The border was safe. Now the humans were gone, and the pirates knew it. The first raid came 2 weeks after the human departure. A Moran cargo convoy was attacked and destroyed. The second raid came 3 days later. Then another, and another. Within a month, the Moran border was burning. Admiral Korath of the Moran fleet sent his ships to fight. They were destroyed. Moran ships were built for trade and transport, not combat. They had relied on humans for protection. They had complained about human aggression while hiding behind human weapons. We need reinforcements, Korath reported to the council. We need warships. We need soldiers. From where? Vorithax asked. Which species will send their military to protect your border? No one volunteered. The Velith were dealing with their atmosphere. The Drenics were repairing their stations. The others had their own problems. Problems they had never noticed when humans were solving them, and the Palaxians were starving. Yuna's farming colonies had fed half the Palaxian population. When she left, she took everything: the seeds, the equipment, the genetically modified crops that could grow in Palaxian soil. She left the fields empty and the warehouses bare. The Palaxians had their own farms, of course. But their crops were small and weak, nothing like the abundant harvests humans had produced. Within 2 months, food supplies were running low. Within 3 months, people were hungry. Within 4 months, they were dying. How did this happen? The Palaxian representative demanded at the council meeting. His voice was shaking. We are a spacefaring species. We cannot feed ourselves. You fed yourselves fine before the humans came, Talon pointed out. But then you let them do everything. You forgot how to do it yourselves. We did not forget. We simply... The Palaxian stopped. He had no answer. In human space. Life was very different. Admiral Choi Sun-hee established new defense lines around human territory. The borders were strong, the patrols were constant, and no one was getting through without permission. Human space was safe. Dr. Beek Jiwoo built new hospitals on human colony worlds. The facilities were modern and well-staffed, and patients came from across human space for treatment. There were no more late-night calls from ungrateful aliens. There were no more emergencies on distant worlds. Jiwoo slept well for the first time in years. Engineer Kang Taiwan developed new technologies in his research station. Communication systems faster than anything the Council had ever seen. Power generators more efficient than anything in the galaxy. He shared them with human colonies and with the Qureshi who had voted to keep humanity. He shared them with no one else. Agricultural specialist Oyuna grew food. So much food that human worlds had surplus, more than they could eat, more than they could store. She thought about the starving Palaxians sometimes. Then she remembered their vote, and she went back to work. The humans traded only with the Qureshi. Human ships brought food and medicine and technology to Qureshi worlds. Human engineers helped build Qureshi infrastructure. Human teachers opened schools for Qureshi children. Why are you helping us? Talon asked during one of his visits to human space. We are small. We are weak. We have nothing to offer you. You voted to keep us, said Foreign Minister Park Do-yeon. He had taken a new title after the expulsion, leading humanity's relations with the outside galaxy. That means something. Loyalty means something? The Council will not like this. They will say you are trying to divide us. The Council expelled us. They don't get to complain about what we do now. 6 months after the human departure, the Galactic Communication Network began to fail. The network was the backbone of Council civilization. It connected worlds across thousands of light years, allowing instant communication between species. It was maintained by 50 relay stations, all of them built by human engineers, all of them abandoned when the humans left. One by one, the stations went dark. Communication slowed, then stopped. Species that had talked daily now waited weeks for messages. Trade agreements fell apart. Diplomatic missions failed. The galaxy was going silent. Speaker Verithax called an emergency council meeting. Half the seats were empty. Delegates could not travel because their ships had broken down. Others could not communicate because the relays were dead. The great chamber felt hollow and cold. We may have been hasty, Verithax admitted. His many eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of distress. Perhaps we should reconsider our decision. Reconsider? The Velith representative stood up. His skin was dark with anger and fear. Our people are choking. The atmosphere is failing. We are beyond reconsidering. Our people are starving, the Palaxian representative added. Children are dying. We need help now. Then contact the humans, Talon said. Ask them to come back. The chamber went quiet. Everyone looked at each other. No one wanted to be the first to admit what they all knew. They had made a terrible mistake, but they were proud species. Old species, species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years before humans even left their homeworld. They could not simply apologize. They could not simply ask for help, could they? Verithax looked around the half-empty chamber. He thought about the failing systems, the burning borders, the starving populations. He thought about the humans, safe in their own space, trading happily with the Qureshi, building a new civilization without the Council. We will send a message, he said slowly. A formal request for assistance. Not an apology. A request. They will want an apology, Talon said. They will take what we offer. But Talon knew better. He had seen how humans operated. They were not like other species. They did not forget, and they did not pretend. The Council had hurt them. The Council had insulted them. The Council had thrown them away like garbage. A simple request would not be enough. The Council's message arrived at the human border station on a cold morning. Lieutenant Kenesoyoung read it 3 times before she believed it. They want us to come back, she told her commander. They're demanding it. Commander No Ji-hoon took the message and read it himself. His face showed nothing, but his hands tightened on the paper. The message was not a request. It was not an apology. It was an order. Return immediately. Resume your duties. This is not a request. Send it to the foreign minister, Ji-hoon said. He'll want to see this. Park Do-yeon read the message in his office on the human capital world. Outside his window, the city was bright and busy. Human children played in parks. Human workers built new buildings. Human life went on, better than it had ever been in Council space. He set the message down and looked at his aide, Yin Mai-rei. They haven't learned anything, he said. They're scared, Murray replied. Scared people don't think clearly. Then they need to get less scared and more thoughtful. Do-Yun picked up his pen. I'll write a response. They can send a proper diplomatic request when they're ready to be respectful. His response was polite but firm. Humanity was willing to discuss assistance, but not under demands. If the Council wanted help, they would need to ask properly. The Council did not take this well. The Velith ambassador sent a personal message to Do-Yun. It was not polite. It threatened war if humans did not return their atmospheric engineers. It talked about consequences and punishment and justice. Do-Hyun forwarded it to Admiral Choi Sun-hee. Sun-hee read the threat and smiled. It was not a nice smile. She had fought 3 wars on behalf of the Velith. She had lost friends protecting Velith colonies. She had asked for nothing in return except respect, and she had not received even that. Move the 3rd Fleet to the border, she told her staff. Full combat readiness. Are we going to war? Commander Hunjasu asked. No, we're making a point. Sun-hee looked at the tactical display showing her fleet's positions. They want to threaten us? Fine, let them see what they're threatening. 3 carrier groups, the finest ships in human space, moved to the Velith border. They did not fire. They did not advance. They simply waited, a wall of metal and weapons, a clear message that humanity would not be bullied. The Velith threat disappeared. No more messages about war and consequences. The Velith ambassador suddenly remembered that he had important business elsewhere. The Moran tried a different approach. They did not threaten. They offered money. A Moran trade delegation arrived at the human border with cases full of credits and promises of future payments. They wanted to hire human mercenaries to protect their border from pirates. They were willing to pay very well. Captain Shin Yunji received them on her patrol ship. She was a decorated veteran with scars on her face and more scars on her heart. She had spent 15 years protecting Moran space from raiders. She had saved entire colonies. She had buried friends who died fighting Moran battles. We're not mercenaries, she told the delegation. We never were. But you protected us before, the lead Moran said. His wide eyes looked confused. You fought for us. We fought for the Council. We fought because we believed in cooperation. We believed we were partners. Yunji's voice was hard. You showed us we were wrong. You showed us we were just tools to you, useful until you didn't need us anymore. We need you now. Then you should have thought about that before you voted. Yunji stood up. This meeting is over. We protect our own now. The Moran left empty-handed. Their border continued to burn on the Palaxian homeworld. The famine was growing worse. People lined up for food that was not coming. Children cried from hunger. Old people died quietly in their homes because there was nothing to feed them. A Palaxian delegation traveled to human space. They did not demand. They did not threaten. They begged. Oyuna met them in her office on the farming station. The station was surrounded by fields of crops, more food than humans could eat. The Palaxians looked at the abundance and their faces showed pain. Please, the lead delegate said. Our people are dying. We made a mistake. We know that now. Please help us. Yuna looked at them for a long moment. She remembered the Palaxian vote. She remembered their representatives standing up in the council chamber and calling humans a threat to the natural order. She remembered packing up her equipment while Palaxian officials watched and did nothing. Why should we feed people who called us a threat? She asked. Why should we help people who threw us away? The delegation had no answer. They stood in silence, surrounded by food they could not have. Go home, Yuna said finally. Tell your leaders to think about what they did. Tell them to think about what kind of galaxy they want to live in. Then maybe we can talk? And the Palaxians left. They went home to their hungry world and reported their failure. The famine continued. While the council struggled, the Qurayshi thrived. Human traders brought food to Qurayshi markets. The small creatures had never seen such abundance. Human engineers built power plants and communication systems on Karashi worlds. Human teachers opened schools where Karashi children learned human science, human history, human languages. Karashi scholar Velen spent his days in a human library, reading everything he could find. Human art, human music, human philosophy. 300 years of human culture, ignored by the galaxy, now studied by the smallest species in the Council. Why didn't anyone else do this? Velen asked Dr. Beek Jiwoo during one of her visits to his world. Why didn't anyone try to understand you? They thought they understood us, Jiwoo replied. They saw what they wanted to see. Aggression, ambition, threat. That's not what I see. What do you see? Velen thought about it. He thought about the human traders who charged fair prices, the human engineers who explained their work instead of just doing it, the human teachers who treated Karashi students like real people, not like children or pets. I see people who want to help, he said. I see people who want to be part of something bigger. I see people who were hurt and who are trying to heal. Jiwoo smiled. It was a sad smile. That's more than the Council ever saw. Back in Council space, things were getting worse. The Velith atmosphere was failing faster now. Entire cities were being evacuated. People wore breathing masks in the streets. The government talked about emergency measures, but there were no measures to take. They needed human engineers, and human engineers were not coming. The Moran border had collapsed. Pirates controlled entire sectors. Trade routes were closed. The Moran economy was falling apart. The Palaxian famine had spread beyond the homeworld. Colony worlds were running out of food too. The government rationed everything, but it was not enough. People were dying every day, and in the middle of all this chaos, the Council species started fighting each other. The Velith blamed the Moran for proposing the expulsion in the first place. The Moran blamed the Palaxians for supporting it. The Palaxians blamed the Velith for voting first and setting the tone. A border dispute between the Velith and Moran nearly turned into a war. Ships faced each other across the border, weapons ready. In the old days, human diplomats would have stepped in, calmed everyone down, found a compromise. Now there were no human diplomats. The war was avoided only because both species were too weak to fight. Their ships were breaking down, their crews were hungry, their governments were distracted by other disasters. Speaker Verithax watched his council fall apart. He had led the expulsion. He had given the speech about new beginnings and natural balance. He had believed that the galaxy would be better without humans. Now he saw the truth. The galaxy was not better. The galaxy was dying. We need to apologize, he said at an emergency meeting. The chamber was nearly empty now. Most delegates could not travel or communicate. We need to admit our mistake and ask for forgiveness. Apologize? The Velith representative stood up. His skin was pale, his voice was weak. The failing atmosphere was affecting even him. We are ancient species. We ruled this galaxy before humans existed. We do not apologize to anyone. Then we die, Verithax said simply. Our pride kills us. The chamber went silent. Everyone looked at each other. They thought about their worlds, their people, their children. They thought about their pride. And slowly, painfully, they began to understand that pride would not save them. Only humans could save them, and humans would require an apology. Writing the apology was the hardest thing the council had ever done. It took 3 months. 3 months of arguments and accusations and blame. 3 months of proud species pointing fingers at each other, refusing to take responsibility for what they had all done together. The Velith wanted to blame the Moran. They proposed the expulsion, the Velith representative said. They started this. We did not force anyone to vote, the Moran representative replied. His fur was thin and patchy from stress. You voted because you wanted to vote. We were pressured. The political climate was created by all of us. Ambassador Talon stood up in the Karashi section. For once, everyone listened. The small creature's voice was quiet but firm. All of you talked about human aggression. All of you complained about human ambition. All of you celebrated when they left. Now you want to blame each other? What would you have us do? Verithax asked. His many eyes looked tired. He had not slept well in months, tell the truth. Talon looked around the chamber. You all voted. You all cheered. You all celebrated. Own it or starve in the dark. The chamber went silent. Some delegates looked angry. Some looked ashamed. Most looked scared because Talon was right. The truth was simple and painful. They had all wanted the humans gone. They had all thought the galaxy would be better without them. They had all been wrong. Write the apology, Verithax said finally. The real apology. No excuses. No blame. Just the truth. It took another month. Every word was debated. Every sentence was argued over. But slowly, painfully, the document came together. The final version was unlike anything in galactic history. 11 species apologizing to one. Ancient civilizations admitting they had been wrong. Proud races asking for forgiveness from creatures they had treated as servants. We expelled humanity from the Galactic Council without just cause, the document began. We accused them of crimes they did not commit. We ignored their centuries of service. We forgot their sacrifices. We were blind to their value and deaf to their worth. We were wrong. The apology went on. It listed human contributions to the galaxy, the technologies they had shared, the wars they had fought, the plagues they had cured, the worlds they had fed, the disasters they had prevented. 300 years of service written down in painful detail. We ask for humanity's forgiveness, the document concluded. We ask for humanity's return. We understand if they refuse. We understand if they never forgive us. But we ask nonetheless because we have no other hope. The Council voted to approve the document. The vote was unanimous. Even the species that had most hated humans understood that there was no other choice. A delegation was assembled. Representatives from each species, led by Speaker Verithax himself. They traveled to human space in a small ship, unarmed and unprotected. They came not as leaders or rulers, but as beggars. Foreign Minister Park Do-yan received them in his office. It was a simple room with plain furniture and a view of the city. No grand chamber, no floating lights, no ceremony. Just a desk and some chairs. Verithax handed over the apology. Do-yan read it carefully. His face showed nothing. This is a good start, he said when he finished. Start? Verithax could not hide his shock. We have apologized. We have admitted our mistake. What more do you want? I want to understand what you've learned. Do-yan set the document down. You expelled us for being too aggressive, too ambitious, too human. Now you want us back because everything is falling apart? But that's not reconciliation. That's desperation. We are desperate. Our people are dying. I know. And we're sorry for that. We truly are. Do-yan's voice was calm but firm. But if we come back and everything goes back to the way it was, you'll just expel us again the next time you feel threatened. We can't live like that. We won't live like that. The chamber went quiet. The delegates looked at each other. They had expected humans to be grateful for the apology. They had expected humans to rush back and fix everything. They had not expected this. What do you want? Verithax asked finally. Do-yan stood up and walked to the window. Outside, human children were playing in a park. Human workers were building a new tower. Human life was going on, happy and safe. We want to be partners, he said. Real partners. Not servants who do your work and take your blame. Not tools you use and throw away. Partners who are respected and valued and treated as equals. You are equals. We weren't. Do-yan turned to face them. You called us aggressive when we protected you. You called us ambitious when we built things. You called us a threat when we grew and succeeded. That's not how you treat equals. The delegates had no response. Because it was true. All of it was true. Do-yan returned to his desk and picked up a paper. Here are our terms for returning. They are not negotiable. The terms were clear. First, humanity would have full partnership status in the Council. Not junior membership, not probationary membership. Full partnership with full voting rights and full respect. Second, the Qurayshi would be elevated to major species status. They had voted to keep humanity, and they would be rewarded for their loyalty. Third, all human assistance would come through formal agreements. No more assumptions. No more expectations. If the Council wanted human help, they would request it properly and compensate it fairly. Fourth, cultural exchange programs would be established. Every species would learn about the others, really learn, not just tolerate. The ignorance that had caused the expulsion would not be allowed to grow again. These are our terms, Do-Yun said. Accept them, and we can begin talking about how to help your worlds. Reject them, and we will wish you well and say goodbye. Verithax looked at the terms. He looked at his fellow delegates. He thought about the dying worlds waiting for him back home. We need to discuss this, he said. We need to consult with our governments. Of course. Take your time. Do-Yun smiled. It was not an unkind smile, but not too much time. Your atmospheric processors won't fix themselves. The delegation returned to council space. They consulted with their governments. They argued and debated and complained, but in the end they had no choice. Their worlds were dying. Their people were starving. Their civilization was collapsing. They accepted every term. In his office, Do-Yun received the acceptance message. He read it carefully, then called his staff together. Begin preparations, he said. We're going back. Is this wise? Myre asked. They hurt us once. They could hurt us again. They could, Do-Yun agreed. But they could also learn. They could change. And if we don't give them the chance, then we're no better than they were. He looked out the window at the city below. Human children, human workers, human life. We left because we had to, he said. We're returning because we choose to. That's the difference. That's what makes us who we are. He turned back to his staff. Let's go save the galaxy, he said. Again. Across human space, the preparations began. Ships were loaded, teams were assembled, plans were made. The humans were going back to council space, but this time, everything would be different. This time, they would not be servants. This time, they would be equals, and the galaxy would never forget what it had almost lost. The return was nothing like the departure. When humanity left, they went quietly. Ships slipping away in the night, stations going dark, people disappearing without ceremony. The galaxy barely noticed until they were gone. When humanity returned, the galaxy watched. Admiral Choi Sun-hee led the fleet into council space. 200 ships, the finest in human space, arranged in perfect formation. They did not fly to assigned patrol routes or maintenance stations. They flew straight to the council central station and docked at the main port. The port reserved for honored guests and heads of state. Sun-hee walked down the boarding ramp in her dress uniform. Her medals caught the light. Her gray hair was perfectly styled. Her eyes were clear and calm. A crowd was waiting. Council officials, station workers, reporters from a dozen species. They watched in silence as the human admiral stepped onto council territory for the first time in over a year. Admiral Sun-hee, Speaker Verithax said, stepping forward. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome you back. Thank you, Speaker. Sun-hee's voice was polite but not warm. We have work to do. The work began immediately. On the Velith homeworld, human engineers arrived at the failing atmospheric processors. The machines were barely functioning now. Toxin levels were dangerous across half the planet. Millions of Velith wore breathing masks just to go outside. Engineer Kong Taiwan led the repair team. He looked at the machines he had built years ago, now broken and dying from neglect. He felt anger, but he pushed it aside. There was no time for anger. Full diagnostic, he told his team. Every system, every component. I want to know exactly what's wrong. They worked for 3 days without sleep. They replaced parts, rewrote code, rebuilt entire sections. The Velith engineers watched and took notes. This time, they would learn how everything worked. On the fourth day, Taiwan activated the main processor. The machine hummed to life. Warning lights turned green. Toxin levels began to drop. The Velith chief engineer watched the readings with tears in his eyes. "You saved us," he said. "After everything we did, you saved us. That's what we do." Taiwan looked at the Velith engineer. "But now you learn to do it yourself. I'm not always going to be here." The training programs began that same day. On the Moran border, Captain Shin Yunji arrived with a patrol fleet. The pirates had grown bold in humanity's absence. They controlled entire systems. They raided at will. The Moran fleet was too weak to stop them. Yunji changed that. Her first mission was a pirate base in the Korath sector. The pirates had taken over a mining station and were using it to stage raids. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. Yunji's ships came out of hyperspace without warning. The battle lasted 12 minutes. When it was over, the pirate base was destroyed and the mining station was free. "That's how it's done," Yunji told the Moran officers who had watched the battle. "Now you learn to do it yourselves." She established a training program for Moran military officers. Human instructors taught tactics, strategy, ship handling, combat techniques. The Moran learned fast. They had spent too long hiding behind human protection. Now they would become protectors themselves. On the Palaxian homeworld, Oyuna arrived with a fleet of cargo ships. They were filled with food, more food than the starving Palaxians had seen in months. Enough to feed the planet. Enough to stop the famine, but Yuna did not just deliver food. She delivered knowledge. "This food will keep you alive for now," she told the Palaxian Agricultural Council. "But you need to feed yourselves. You need to grow your own food on your own world with your own hands." She established farming academies across the planet. Human agricultural scientists taught Palaxian farmers the techniques that had made human colonies so productive. Soil preparation, seed selection, irrigation, pest control. Everything humans had learned in centuries of farming, shared freely with people who had called them a threat. The first harvest came 6 months later. It was not as abundant as human harvests, but it was real. It was theirs. The Palaxians called it the human gift, and they celebrated it with feasts and festivals. Dr. Beek Jiwoo returned to the medical stations she had built. The facilities were damaged and understaffed, but they were still standing. She began repairs immediately, but she also began something more important. "I'm not here to do your work anymore," she told her Velith medical students on the first day of class. "I'm here to teach you to do it yourselves. When I leave, you will be able to handle anything that comes. You will be doctors who don't need humans to save your people." The students worked hard. They studied human medical techniques, human surgical procedures, human diagnostic methods. They made mistakes, but they learned from them. Giwu was a demanding teacher, but she was also fair. She wanted them to succeed. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Humans returned, but not as servants. They returned as teachers, as partners, as equals. They fixed what was broken, but they also taught others to fix it themselves. They saved lives, but they also trained others to save lives. The council noticed the change. Humans no longer rushed to help without being asked. They did not work for free. They did not accept blame for things that were not their fault. They were polite and professional, but they were also firm. They knew their worth, and they expected others to know it too. Some species complained. The Velith ambassador grumbled that humans were too proud now, too demanding. The Moran admiral said they were not as helpful as before. The Palaxian Council wished humans would just do things instead of teaching all the time, but Ambassador Tellan understood. The Qurayshi had always understood. "They are teaching you to stand on your own," he told the council. "They are giving you something more valuable than help. They are giving you independence." The Qurayshi themselves had changed. With human support, they had grown strong. Their technology was modern, their economy was stable, their military was capable. They were no longer the smallest and weakest species in the council. They were partners and allies of the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Karishi scholar Velen published his book on human culture. It became the most widely read book in council space. Species that had ignored humans for centuries now studied them carefully, trying to understand what they had missed. They were never the threat we imagined, Velen wrote. They were the opportunity we ignored. They wanted to help us and we called them aggressive. They wanted to build with us and we called them ambitious. They wanted to be our partners and we treated them as servants. The mistake was ours and we paid for it in blood and hunger and fear. 1 year after the return, Foreign Minister Park Do-yeon addressed the council chamber. It was the same chamber where he had been expelled, but everything was different now. The human section was no longer in the back with the junior species. It was in the inner circle with the major powers. Do-yeon's seat was next to Speaker Verithax himself. The Karashi had been elevated too. Ambassador Telon sat in a major section for the first time in his species' history. His ears stood straight up with pride. 300 years ago, Do-yeon said, humanity joined this council hoping to find partners. Instead, we were treated as tools. We do not blame you for that. Fear of the different is natural, but we will not accept it anymore. He looked around the chamber. Every seat was filled. Every species was present. They had all traveled here to hear him speak. We are here to build something better, he continued. Not human dominance. Not human service. Partnership, real partnership. And for that, we need you to see us. Not as threats. Not as servants. As people. The chamber was silent for a moment. Then, slowly, the applause began. It started with the Karashi, enthusiastic and unashamed. Then the others joined in. Some were reluctant. Some were embarrassed. But some were genuine, clapping because they understood what had been lost and what had been regained. The Velith delegate, whose world would have died without human help, bowed his head in acknowledgement. The Moran admiral, whose fleet now trained beside human ships, stood and saluted. The Palaxian representative, whose people now grew their own food, wiped tears from his eyes. Outside the chamber, across 1,000 worlds, the news spread. Humans were back. But more than that, things were different. Better, on a small human colony world, a young girl asked her grandmother about the time before. What happened? She asked. Why did we leave? The grandmother looked at her granddaughter. She thought about the expulsion, the dark months, the return. She thought about everything that had changed. We left because they didn't see us, she said. We came back because they learned to look. Will they hurt us again? The grandmother thought about it. She thought about the training programs and the partnerships and the changes she had seen. She thought about a galaxy that was finally learning to appreciate what it had. Maybe, she said honestly, people make mistakes, but they learn from this one. And we learned too. What did we learn? The grandmother smiled. That together is better than alone, even when together is hard. The girl thought about this. Then she nodded and went back to playing. The grandmother watched her go. She thought about the future, about the galaxy her granddaughter would inherit. It would not be perfect. Nothing ever was. But it would be better because humanity had left, and the galaxy had learned what it lost, and now humanity was back. And everyone was learning something new, how to be partners, how to be equals, how to be together. It was a good lesson. The best lesson, and the galaxy would never forget it.